Hi, Ginny. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me. You just won your third trials?
This is my third Olympic trials I've competed in, but this is the second time I've won the Olympic trials.
Are you excited?
Yes.
Do you feel good about it?
Heck yeah.
And so that means now you've been staying where to get ready for the Olympics?
So the past 4 years now, I've been living at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs.
Okay.
And I moved there after I won the Olympic trials for the 2016 Olympics. So yeah, these past 4 years, I've just been mostly training down there, traveling around the world, competing, trying to get as much experience as I can before Tokyo. But for the trials, I've been home in Houston, where I'm originally from, because my home coach works my corner for any time I fight in the States.
Okay, so you literally have been going back and forth.
Yeah.
And so do you have your own place in Houston, or?
Since most of my time is in Colorado Springs, all my stuff is at the Olympic Training Center in my room that I live in.
Yeah. And now almost home is kind of like a hotel. Like
yeah.
Home is where you feel kind of displaced and.
Yeah, because I'll only be there for like 2 weeks after a big tournament, except for like nationals, which are always at the end of the year, and this year obviously the Olympic trials. That's when I stay home the longest, like all November, December.
Okay, wow.
Train with my home coach for those tournaments.
So in general, you're traveling kind of nonstop. So how would you say that traveling affects you just in general, just as somebody that competes, let alone somebody that has been very open about your issues with OCD?
You know, the funny thing is I do better traveling, which is, most people would think it's the opposite, but I do better when I'm in a different country and I'm in a foreign place and than I am when I'm home. And that could be because my comfortability at home makes my OCD thoughts and rituals kind of go out of hand, because it's like a safe zone for me. Where I'm traveling, you know, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what the hotel will be like. I don't know what's around me. So I kind of think I go into survival mode when I travel, which helps me be able to control my OCD thoughts better. But I'm also in a different mindset too when I'm traveling, because I'm in competition.
Specifically.
So like that's why I always say boxing's kind of like therapy for me, because it helps me get out of those OCD thoughts and that OCD trap in my mind, because it lets me have a purpose and focus, which is my boxing and winning the tournament at hand.
I wonder if there's something to be said about your home. Everything is recognizable to you, and your brain is set into these patterns, and it almost locks you in, as opposed to, like you said, you go to a hotel. Where's the shower? You know, how many doors is there access to my room? You know, this bed is over here. Usually I kind of sleep next to a wall. And do you think it kind of takes you out of your routines in a way that that kind of jolts it the same way that maybe you're being taught in treatment?
Right. Actually, you put it right on the nose with that, because I think that's why I do worse at home, because these habits I've developed over the years that have become intensified, especially in these past 4 years with me specifically. When I get home, even though, you know, I've kind of been out of that routine because I've been traveling, it's almost like my brain is like snaps back into the OCD rituals. It's like, oh, you're in your home environment, and so you have to do it this way because you're in that environment. When compared to, you know, traveling, it's not you know, my home or the environment where I developed these habits. So I'm able to change them easier because I know it's like where I started them. So
it's like not
kind of
set
like a
in
trick
your brain.
Yeah, it's like a trick in my brain. When I go away, it's, you know, it's a different environment. So I'm able to change these routines, but then right back in home, it's like, bam, I can't not go back into them.
The word routine makes it a really smart definition, because if you think about it this way, do we really think about, like, you know, putting on your pants in the morning or making a cup of coffee or brushing your teeth? Or for me, I take the same subway every single day. And then occasionally I'll have to go in the opposite direction and take this train that's a little bit further. And I will tell you, every time that happens, I walk 4 blocks in the wrong direction because I'm like, no, we got to take this train.
Yeah.
And so you kind of start doing things without thinking it. And then when you're in a new place, now you're in Shanghai, everything looks different. You have to pay attention to your maps. You have to be more cognizant about everything that's going on, that it doesn't actually allow you to go into any routines, let alone your OCD routines.
Right.
So I find that interesting that most people would assume that being in a place of comfort would actually be healing to you. And what you've learned over time is that the more you kind of challenge your habits and challenge your comfort, the more you're able to combat some of your unwanted routines.
No, most definitely, because I actually, look forward, I mean, obviously because I'm competing too, but I look forward traveling, any kind of traveling, even if it's not competing, because again, like I had to adapt to my environment. So my OCD has to adapt. Yes, it will try to do the habits that I do at home as, as close as I can. But, I know that's impossible because it's not my home. And I almost, when I go back home, it's like this dread feeling I get, like, and like this natural anxiety just comes over me because I know I'm going back to, I almost, like I call the bathroom kind of like my prison, my OCD prison, because I can get stuck in there with, my contamination thoughts and my rituals, and, sometimes I just even dreading going in there, in any bathroom, because it's like a prison for me, but especially my home one, because again, it's familiar, and so I've done certain things a certain way, and so I have to do it that way regardless when I get home.
OCD can manifest in different ways in different people, but for you it has to do with cleanliness. Can you describe some of the habits that have kind of made a bathroom a prison for you?
Well, if I want to wash my face or if I want to shower, I always have to brush my teeth. And it always has to be, I used to have a time, but I've started to change my rituals to kind of help get them better. So it used to be like 30 minutes straight. Now, brushing my teeth, okay, before I can move on to the next step of getting clean, my cleaning process. But now it's mostly with 6 to 12 toothbrushes in one setting, because I've kind of developed this new contamination fear of, I'm brushing my teeth, it's cleaning my teeth, but the toothbrush is getting dirty in the process. So I'll have to, like, it's this feeling I get, oh, that one's dirty, so then I'll grab a new toothbrush. And then, so I have that little segment of my OCD I have to start with. And then I do like a pre-shower or pre-face wash ritual. And again, with my OCD, it's a feeling. So I'm searching for this clean feeling. And with OCD, the way it can get worse and worse is because it's never good enough. OCD is you're never good enough. You never can be clean enough. So it's always going beyond to search for that or get that clean feeling. So I can be in there from 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how anxious I am that day or how whatever's going on that day. And then I get in the shower, and then I have a whole way of showering. Like I start with my face, and then I go to my hair, and then I go back to my face, and then I'll like have a checkpoint in my brain of what I did that day. So say my leg touched something that was really contaminated to me, I'll remember that, so when I'm in the shower, I'll focus mostly on that spot. And that could, again, it's a feeling, so that could take 3 to 10 sponges I have to use to clean that one spot, because again, I'm cleaning it, so that sponge gets contaminated in the process of cleaning that dirty spot. So all those little rituals, build up to this long dueling process that can take up, now I've gotten better obviously, but could take up to 5 hours just for me to just shower after practice and get to bed. So I'm losing sleep. It's a lot of energy I'm expanding. It's, it's this dreading feeling. I'm like, I don't want to do this, but I have to. Like, I can't move on with my day, or I can't go to bed, or I can't do anything else. I have to do this before I can move on.
I'm very curious about, you clearly have self-awareness that you're brushing your teeth and you have this feeling that it's contaminated, but you mentally know that it's not, or not, it can't get contaminated in 3 seconds. Like, where does kind of the OCD take over, where you have kind of like logical Ginny that like knows that there's nothing wrong with this toothbrush, or there's the spot is clean, and OCD Ginny when you can't stop the ritual?
So when I first was diagnosed with OCD, I never really thought I had a problem. I was just like, I like to be extra clean. I take a little extra time taking showers or washing my hands or whatnot. But these past 3 years when I've, where it's kind of gotten to another level, and to where I know like, wow, I really do have a problem, was an instant where I was washing my hands and I was using like, I think I went through like 2 bottles of hand soap. And I was telling myself, like, why do you need more soap? These are clean. You've been cleaning these hands for 30 minutes. I think it was like 30 minutes. And I just couldn't, I don't know, I was getting really frustrated, like banging on the counter and crying and like, why can't I stop? Like there was like something in me that I physically could not stop washing my hands. And it was so debilitating in the way of, I spent an hour in the bathroom just washing my hands, and I'm like, what the heck? Like, what's going on? Like, what? Why can't I just walk away from the sink right now? But I like physically couldn't, until again I was like, okay, these hands are clean, and that's when I was like, okay, the fact that I'm telling myself to stop but I can't walk away scared me, because I'm a very strong person and have a lot of self-control in my eyes. But at that moment I was like, wow, I felt like I had no control over my behavior at that moment, which was a really scary thing.
You've insinuated that it's gotten worse in the last couple of years. Would you say that the stress of training and also trying to reach certain athletic goals has kind of sparked a flare-up, or do you feel like it's the change of location? Like, what do you think is the reason the last couple of years that it's manifested in a way that feels more out of control?
Pretty much there's a lot of factors in it, but those 2 definitely play a lot in it. I think, so when I was home in Houston, I was traveling a lot. I was in the car traveling to the gym, and then I have to change clothes and go to my strength and condition coach and train at that gym, and then go do my run back home, which is 45 minutes away from downtown Houston. So I was traveling a lot, so I didn't have this extra time to be in the bathroom and clean. But when I moved to the Olympic Training Center, the gym, I just 1 minute, 2 minute walk to the gym from my room. And so that in between time, and I also, didn't have like to train people for my finances. All I could focus on is training at the training center, which is nice, probably not the best situation for me, because that in between time, that free time, was all focused on getting myself clean, or cleaning the sink, make sure the sink is perfect. It could take me 2 hours to clean the sink or whatnot. So when that between time when I'm supposed to be getting recovery, and tissue work or PT work or just resting, I was spent using all this other energy and trying to search this clean feeling. And I didn't have that time in Houston, because my mind was focused on getting to the gym. Make sure you eat before you go do your strength conditioning, So there was other factors where I was able to not be so trapped in my OCD in Houston compared to in Colorado Springs.
You ended up going to treatment during your trials and while being away. Was it you that noticed that it was becoming unmanageable? Was it a teammate? Was it a coach? Like, what was this kind of signal or sign that this is going to hinder me getting stronger and me taking my career to the next level?
Well, I think the main thing was myself realizing that I was literally trapped in my rituals and I couldn't get out of it with, the amount of supply I'm using in my rituals, which is like soap, face wipes, Clorox wipes, all that. And then just the time consuming of my rituals was longer and longer and longer. And things would add on, I would keep adding things onto my rituals. And that's where, I actually learned in inpatient, that's where your OCD is just, is stronger than your normal voice in your head. And that's where you can kind of spiral, which I saw me doing. And then my best friend, Michaela Mayer, who roomed with me at the Olympic Training Center, but she's professional now. She still lives in Colorado Springs. And so I think we were traveling, or I was staying at her house for a good month, and she was like, Ginny, you're going to Walmart 3 times a day now? 'Cause she was see, she could see I knew I was doing that, but I guess her seeing it and telling me, I was like, whoa, I am. I'm going to Walmart 3 times a day and going through all these supplies in one day. And then, she's like, are you going to get out of the bathroom? Or we're going to hang out? Little things like that. But the breaking point was, I think there was 3 days where I seriously got no sleep, because after training, I was spending the whole night stuck in my rituals, and I just kind of broke down because I was exhausted. I felt like a little delusional, no sleep, and I was getting ready to go. I think it was a week from a tournament, and I was like, there's no way I can function and compete like this, because I can't even function in my daily living right now. So I'm very close with our assistant head coach. He knows my struggle. He's been very good, a person for me to call and talk to about it, so he can calm me down. So I called him that night, and I was like, Kay, his name is Kay. I was like, I don't think, I was like, this is a different state I'm in. I seriously feel stuck. Like, I'm never gonna be able to leave this room because I'm stuck in these rituals. What do I do? I was like, I think I need serious help again. I think I need to go to inpatient, but I don't know, I don't even know how to move on from this moment of just trying to get in the shower. Like, what do I do? I need help. So that was the point where I was like, okay, if I don't get help now, then this could affect my boxing and going to the Olympics.
I think people don't talk about how difficult of a decision that must be. Like, this idea that you've worked this hard to get to where you're training to go to the Olympics, and this part of you that in some ways you feel is under control because you're still functioning, you're not missing practice, you're still, I was reading an article about how you were in India and you had Delhi belly and you had all these issues, and both just from being in India plus your rituals, and you still are winning all these fights. Like, there's a huge testament to talk about just how strong you are of an athlete, but the idea that you were able to make a real choice about your mental health and how important that is to competition, and how when you ignore that, you ignore the rest of your body. And I think a lot of people don't think about how important sleep is. I think a lot of people don't think about how important just resting your brain and what that means to have, we all talk about self-care now, self-care, but some self-care, especially for people that are struggling with mental illness, is acknowledging that it's too much for me, that it's out of my hands, and that I'm going to need more tools than the ones that I've developed at this time, or that the fact that my illness has become a new level of unmanageable, and I've, for whatever reasons, have new issues with it, and I'm going to have to seek extra help. And
right.
As an adult, I think that's actually a really hard thing to say, which is, I think most people think, well, you're an adult and you've gotten this far in your career, you did it.
Yeah.
You're done. You're done learning.
That's actually it's funny that you say that, because I've always looked at myself in my OCD, like, I've always had control over it, no matter how exhausting it makes my everyday living. I've always had control over it. It's never gotten in the way of boxing, and I've been almost proud of myself for that, and almost looked at me as a better athlete in that sense. But this was, the beginning of this year, when I could slowly see my full control over the OCD start slipping away. And like I said, where I wasn't eating because I didn't have time to run to the cafeteria and eat. I needed to hurry up and make sure I felt clean before next practice, which is good because I don't want to miss practice, but I wasn't feeling my body. I wasn't sleeping. And so, again, that was so scary. And and I was like, I need help, but I can't have help right now. I've got the Olympics is next year. This is going to take time out of my training. Was this going to affect me in the long run to getting to Tokyo and getting my gold medal? There's a lot of stuff going in my head, and the head coach is going to be disappointed. He's going to see me as weak, or that I can't, that I can't manage this, so I can go focus on my boxing, get to the Olympics. You know, there's so much going on. But at that moment, I was like, look, you know, yes, you got your boxing, you got all this, but if you don't get your mental health in control in a manageable state, then you won't have that boxing. So, you know, take the time to focus on it now, because if you decide to ignore it, then it could spiral to something worse, and it could be too late to get the help. So that was kind of what made that final decision.
I think that's amazing. Like, what were some of the treatments that you got, and then what are some of the tools that you were able to bring back so that when you did go back to training, you felt more in control and more supported?
So an inpatient, most of the time is you do exposure therapy, which is meant to spike your anxiety as high as it can go, and then hold that anxiety and deal with it and feel it, not try to like go to your ritual to make that anxiety go down or do anything to make that anxiety go away. It's the purpose is to intensify it and keep it high and high, and so you can deal with it. And I'll kind of compare it to like boxing. When you train the first camp, those workouts are hard and you're dead, but then by the end of the camp, that workout was easy because you're immune to it. So same kind of concept. You build this immunity to your anxiety so that...
Almost like endurance.
Yeah, so that you can deal with it and not let the OCD, you know, not let yourself get out of control and let the OCD take over and you just, you know, go into a state of whatever your OCD is, with mine washing. So most of the time I was doing that. And so yeah, over time I was able to, if something touched me that it was contaminated and my anxiety spiked high, I wouldn't automatically freak out and have to run to the bathroom. I could, okay, I felt this feeling, uncomfortable feeling before. I know how to deal with it. I don't have to run to the bathroom and wash this spot off for 30 minutes. I'll be fine. Other things are just try to rewire your brain, like be able to diffuse OCD thoughts from regular thoughts, and how not to like get confused with what's a normal hand washing after whatever you get your hands dirty compared to an OCD hand wash. So little things like that have helped me in the long run, and so my goal throughout in the inpatient was to be dirty.
Yeah.
So, which was a hard concept because I asked my therapist, I was like, can you just help me feel clean in a short amount of time? That's what I need help with. She goes, well, Ginny, it just doesn't work that way, because what OCD wants is to be clean, and you'll never be clean enough. So what you need to tell yourself is to be dirty, so that you're tricking your OCD, and then your thoughts will kind of, you know, rewire itself to being like, okay, that wall that you touch isn't that dirty, relax. Now go on throughout your day, and don't worry about washing that right away or being in the bathroom for an hour before you can continue with what you're doing.
I would think it's also letting your brain know nothing bad has happened.
Yeah.
I feel like, so I'm a performer. I've done stand-up comedy since I was 16 years old. And, you know, the thing that people come up to me and say is like, hey, you're so brave. And I'm just like, not really. I'm just selfish. I want attention. And it's bigger than my fear. But like in the beginning, you know, it's scary. You don't know if your jokes are going to work. You don't know if you're to say the right thing. You know, people are looking at you. You have all these different fears. And then sometimes they happen. Every fear you have happens. But like maybe you got one laugh because of it. Maybe you still got booked. Maybe it was a horrible experience, but you learned from it. But eventually you've had every bad experience and you still work. People still find you funny. You get through it somehow. And it gets to the point that when I am nervous and my anxiety gets spiked, I have now like a Rolodex of both good and bad experiences where I'm like, I'll live through this, and or I know how to get through this in a professional manner. Yeah. So I wonder if it's the same thing where like, I mean, New York City is not the right place for you. Do not take the subway.
My friends were like, that'd be great exposure therapy.
Oh, it really, I mean, it's exposed. I think it's why we all have a strong immune system, because God knows what's on that train. But not to cause fears, but you know, with the exception of like real gross dirt, you know, most things you're never going to have a level of clean, and it's almost toxic to have a level of clean. Like you strip away your ability to be healthy. So like, are you able to talk to yourself in a logical, intelligent sense, which is that I'm actually doing myself harm by taking away healthy bacteria or what have you.
Yeah, that was also another skill I learned in inpatient, was to look at the situation or the perspective in a different way. Because over the years I've developed these habits, these cleaning habits, where in my perspective, this is how you have to do it. That's the right way to get clean. You know, other people might not do it, but this is how you have to do it. You know, nothing's bad is going to happen that day if you don't go wash that off right away, you know. So looking at things in different perspective, in my experience, has been a key help in overcoming being able to manage it in a better sense. Because there's people with contamination fear OCD, but there's a broad spectrum of that too. So girl might think something's dirty to her, but I'm like, that's totally fine. But something opposite, in my perspective, in my mind, is completely contaminated. How can you touch it? But she's like, no, it's not. Like, put that on my face or whatnot. So yeah.
I find that so fascinating because me and my friend were both comedians, both very uneducated, and so like she'll show me a rash and she'll be like, what do you think it is? And I'll be like, as a non-doctor, I think it is. And then I'll tell her about something weird that my body's doing. She's like, well, as a non-doctor. And it's this funny way of being like, we don't know what we're talking about, so everything that comes out of her mouth is like based on maybe some Google things and maybe having that experience once a couple of years ago, and it kind of infuses this perspective of we don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And it kind of, and like that's like what you're talking about, it like changes the perspective, where it's like I could give you advice, like, you know, we go to the like, we're dying, like I have a rash, is this cancer, are we dying?
Yeah.
As opposed to like, as a non-doctor, I've had that rash before, I didn't die, maybe you can also talk to a doctor, they might be able to help you further. But it's almost like our funny way of kind of taking each other out of the experience so we don't spiral out of control of A, thinking that it's something worse, or B, joking about the fact that we don't know what we're talking about. And I find that fascinating with you talking about OCD, which is like you clearly logically know that this definition of clean that you have is kind of made up. Like
Yeah.
it's something that for whatever reason, maybe you saw something when you were younger, maybe even commercials, I'm sure, have some kind of, you know, Clorox wipes say they kill 99% of germs, but how is that to say that something that we use that doesn't have that label isn't more efficient or better? Or
That's a good example, because I will do that. I can't just, if my hands are dirty, I can't, and I just have a bar of soap, I can't just use that bar of soap. I need something that says antibacterial in it, because that soap's not actually killing, in my mind, the germs. So my hands are still contaminated. I might wash some of it off, but I need something to kill it. I call it my supplies that I use to clean, and I have to use that supply. I can't just go to a store, they don't have what I usually use, and be like, oh, this will work. I have to use what, you know, I've developed in my habits over the years, and I will go to a store to find that until I have it in my possession before I need, you know, whatever I need to do.
because your routines have given you brand loyalty because you've decided that that's given you the ultimate clean.
Yes,
like
exactly.
This product has done this for me, this product says that it does this for me, and I believe it.
Yeah.
Using different products been a way of being a treatment for you, or has
yeah.
that just put you in a spiral?
No. It's definitely been a treatment for me. And again, like I might use 2 soaps in a shower again just to get the ultimate clean. So part of therapy will be like, all right, how about you just use shower gel and not a bar of soap in the shower? That can be a form of therapy, which is really hard for me, which shouldn't be. It's just like using 1 soap instead of 2. But it's like, I'll be in the shower, be like, I am doing nothing right now. I'm not getting clean because I don't have that other form of soap. So that's why it's a good therapy, because I still feel completely dirty when I get out of the shower, which is my goal. But
which is so funny because everybody would be like, you were in the shower for 40 minutes
exactly.
with soap.
But in my mind, I'm like, but I'm not clean. And then that's where I feel like people almost find it fascinating and want to understand why I feel that way when I just came out of the shower. You know, but they're like, why do you feel that way? And I was like, well, because, you know, what I just explained to you, it's not the same soap. This soap kills more. If I just use one soap, I'm not really getting clean. I'm just spreading the dirt or germs around me.
Yeah.
And so I'll be like, oh, interesting. I never thought about it that way.
This isn't the first time you've had treatment. You were, from what I understand, you were diagnosed with anorexia when you were in middle school.
Yeah.
And when you got sent to treatment for that, that's where they discovered your OCD.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think something triggered that at a young age for you? Or was it kind of always there and then people just started to kind of notice because of extreme habits?
I remember I was in 5th grade, and I don't know why this thought just came, but I was just comfortably sitting on the bus, and I was looking on the ground. I was like, ew, this floor on this bus is really gross. And then I looked at the person across from me, and their backpack's on the floor, and I was like, oh, their backpack's touching the floor. And I picked mine up right away, and I was like, oh, gross. Now that dirt on the ground's on my backpack. And so I got home, and my friend would always come over to do homework with me. And I remember we go to my room, and she put her backpack on my bed, and I flipped out. I was like, oh, no, get that off. And she's like, what's wrong? I was like, your backpack just touched that dirty floor on the bus, and now it's on my comforter, and I had changed all my sheets. And I was only in 5th grade, and so that was the first thing I remember, because how many times I rode that bus all year, but just that day, for some reason, I noticed that. From then on, I had been way more cautious about cross-contamination, is what we call it, things like that. And, I observe that every day, and it's almost, like a hyper focus that my brain does automatically that I don't have to think about anymore because I've been doing it for so many years. But I automatically will just do stuff that most people be like, why did you move that over there? Or why can't you put, But I just think it's normal because I've just done it for so many years. But yeah, I mean, that's the first thing I can remember when it comes to my OCD. But with the anorexia, I think I developed these habits and rituals that made me skinny, and that's where they understood.
Were they calming?
Huh?
Would you say that it was calming?
I really just went on a diet, but I think I liked how I was controlling everything to lose the weight, and I think my OCD kind of got in and made me spiral and to where I became anorexic, which I didn't expect.
Yeah.
And so that's why when I was an inpatient for that, they go, really, the underground cause of her anorexia is her OCD. And so then I got sent to an inpatient OCD treatment right after I was in for anorexia.
Like there were moments where it was about cleanliness, but really it was about control. Would you say it was as extreme in middle school and high school, or it's just slowly built over time where you don't even realize that it went from like maybe in 5th grade you washed your hands for 5 minutes and now you're an adult that's washing their hands for 30 minutes?
So it did progress in middle school and then high school. Obviously, when I was diagnosed, I was doing therapy and I was on medication. So I think the rest of my high school years and then going into college, I was able to manage it in a way where, I was pretty much enjoying, every high school, college person enjoys life. I didn't really see it affect me. Yes, I still had some of my rituals and habits that my friends could recognize, but it wasn't affecting my life overall. Then when I got to this, state of, all right, this manageable, I don't need meds, I don't need therapy anymore, because I never really believed in that at that age. Now I do, obviously. So I was like, okay, I got this thing, I don't need all this other external stuff to help me. And so I think so that was in college. So all those times when I, wasn't doing therapy, not on my medication, and then, as my life got more stressful with my boxing and all that, I think that's how why I kind of say, I guess I can say relapsed, and why it spiraled or it came back to hit me even harder.
So you're in therapy and you're on medication now?
Yes.
What type of therapy do you do and how often, and what kind of medication are you on?
So when I'm home in Houston, I still work with my therapist that I worked with when I was inpatient. So with her, I try to go, at least when I'm home in Houston, I go to her every day and we do exposure therapy. And, we just try to do as much exposure therapy in that 1 hour as we can to, again, hold my anxiety to a 10. In Colorado Springs, a little, I probably I have an OCD specialist I see there, but I only see her probably twice a week because my schedule is different. It's a team dynamic environment, so we have other obligations. I'm not just, on my own schedule. The medication I'm on is Effexor, which was the same medication I was on in high school. I've tried pretty much every medication you can for OCD and anxiety. So Effexor's just been something that's helped me, I feel like, the best.
What do you feel that it does for you?
It kind of takes that worry. Like, I don't wake up every day worrying about, I gotta clean this. Make sure you don't touch this. There's just the extra worry. There's extra thoughts in my head, kind of not be so bold.
So it just kind of dims the intensity of your need to do rituals.
Yes.
You mentioned it before that your treatment is exposure therapy and getting dirty. But your job is exposure therapy, is it not? You know what I mean? Like you're getting sweaty, you're touching other people's blood's getting on you. Like somebody's, massaging you afterwards. There's all these, what is it about boxing that you are drawn to, knowing that is a part of it, knowing that this is going to trigger the most extreme moments of feeling unclean. And then when you are in the ring, are you thinking, is it really exposure therapy in the sense that are you thinking I'm dirty, or are you so in the moment and you're concentrating on your athleticism and your craft of boxing that it's not even a thought that you have?
So I get that question all the time, like, you have OCD with contamination, but you box, it makes no sense. And that's why I say boxing is like my therapy, because I go into the gym and I have a focus, whether it's training that day, whether it's the fight. So it gives me another purpose in my mind, focus point in my mind. And yes, I'll be in the gym and I'll see my sparring partner put their gloves on the ground, and then I'm sparring with them and that's touching my face. And I think about that right after I spar and be like, I really want to go wash my face, but I got to go do 4 rounds on the bag and jump rope. So I will have little thoughts, like split thoughts like that in the gym, but not to the point where I have to stop what I'm doing and go to the bathroom and wash, because my ultimate goal in life and what I want to do on this earth is go to the Olympics and win a gold medal for boxing. So
you're focused in that moment.
Yeah, that's my ultimate value in my life. So that trumps all of my OCD. But when I'm not in the gym or when I'm not in the ring and I'm in my room, because I'm obviously not focusing on boxing, I'm just relaxing, that's when my OCD becomes more important than everything else. Again, that's why I say boxing's like my therapy, because it takes me out of that OCD world. Even though I bring it into the boxing gym, I'm able to have more control over it and not let it affect me.
Have you seen anything else that has had that effect? Like I think of, I don't have kids, but I think of what people tell me, which is like you have one kid and you become like a helicopter mom in the sense that you're like, oh my God, something bad's gonna happen. You're constantly focused. Then you have 2 kids or 3 kids and you're like, I don't even have time. If somebody doesn't make it back, you just have to risk it. Like your mind is so overwhelmed with the fact that you have your job and you have your kids and you have all this stuff that you actually can't be too much of a worrier, because it's too much for you to actually handle, and it makes you focus on what you can handle. Right. So I wonder, at the same time, you have this ultimate focus and this ultimate goal. It takes you out of your OCD. Are you able to replicate that with anything else that's important? Is there a time that, a friend is going through a troubling time and you have to be completely there for her, that you're not thinking, oh my God, she's crying on me and there's tears on me? Or is there, you get in a car accident, you're fully in the moment. Like there's these different moments in your life that aren't just a career focus that make you be in the present moment, which seems like that's some of it. Have you experienced it in other things outside of boxing that have made you not forget? I'm not trying to say that a mental illness is something you can forget, but it has taken your focus out of it.
Well, I feel like someone just asked me this question not too long ago, because I was thinking about it, and love pretty much is a very powerful thing, because Like my cat Boudreaux, he's outside all day walking around and everything, but I love him so much. So I pick him up and cuddle with him, let him sleep with me. Yes, I know he's rolling around on the dirt or whatnot, but that doesn't bother me because I love him so much. Past boyfriends I've had, I might see them touch something or, put something down where I don't want it to be, but I don't want to get on them. And then, of course, I'd want them to hug me and show me affection. So, because I care about them. So those thoughts yes, they'll kind of come to light, but then I'll be like, no, so it doesn't matter because I want to hug him or I don't want to bother him with that. Same with my parents. Like, when I see them touch stuff and I want to give them a hug, I'll be like, no, that's okay. Who cares what OCD's talking about right now? Love is more important, and you want to feel that affection or that emotion. So I will say, anytime, little things like that in my life, I've shown OCD to not be important.
This might be a bold question, but do you feel like there's a lack of self-love towards yourself, that you feel anything you touch has to be dealt with immediately, as opposed to anything somebody in your life touches, you're okay with it, at least for that moment?
Really, what I've struggled with is an overwhelm of guilt. One, from all the supplies and plastic and water I go through. Two, might make my friends or family members be like, oh, don't touch me, because you just touched that. And I feel bad. I'm like, oh, I don't want them to think that I think they're disgusting and gross. It's just they touch something and haven't washed their hands. But the way I can come off is kind of like a little brat or just mean. Like, I can't give you a hug. What did I touch? In their heads, I didn't touch anything. But so in that sense, I don't feel like a warm, loving person, or I can feel cruel sometimes when it's not my intention, but I can see how I come across that way.
Do you believe that all the struggles that you went through have made you a better friend to anybody that has not even just similar struggles, just having a bad day, losing somebody, anything that would cause them extreme distress, because this is something that you've been dealing with since you were a child?
Yes, most definitely. I actually have a lot of friends that call me when they're struggling with anything and having a really down time, just because they know what I struggle with and that I've been so open with it, and obviously seeked help for it and know how to deal with it. So that makes me feel in that aspect like a good support system for my friends or family when it could be anything going on in their life.
How do you support them?
If it's a situation I really haven't been through or anything, I kind of just give them examples of what I would do in a hard time. And I'm a very positive person, so I always like to look at positive outlook. So, I always give them good ultimatums, positive ultimatums, or, what can we do to get past or fix the situation, or if a situation you can't do anything about it, then move on and just go on with your life. Because with my OCD, I get stuck in this feeling of trying to feel clean enough, where I'm teaching myself, okay, whether you feel that way, whether that's contaminated or not, you feel that way, but you've washed it and you're never gonna get clean enough, so move on. It's okay, you can go on with your life. So in that correlation is how I think I can help my friends and family.
And how have they helped you, especially when you were going through a triggering moment or a spiral in your routines?
Pretty much to get my mind off of what I'm trapped in, OCD related ritual or whatnot. They'll get my mind thinking of something else. So again, it's like I'm focusing on something else, so that when I do come back to what I'm struggling with, it doesn't seem so bad, because I've kind of had other thoughts and moved on in a way, even though I'm still kind of like, oh, I got to go back to the situation first. But now I'm going back to it in a different state, not so erratic and not so stressful, and that maybe I can actually finish whatever it is and move on comfortably.
You're working on a documentary called KOCD, and what are your goals with this documentary? What do you hope to achieve with creating it, and then people's response to it?
Well, I tell people I struggle with OCD and that it's with contamination, but there's so many different rituals or how you see things. So my purpose is, for one, to show people not to be ashamed and don't hide from it. And if you need help, go ask for it. Don't be ashamed for that either. And then just kind of to give people a view on my certain struggles with my OCD. So this is giving people an insight to like how my actual day in my boxing life and OCD life is, so they can like actually see it tangibly and get an understanding of like, oh, this is how debilitating it really is for her. Now I can see it, because I can tell people all the time I'm in the bathroom washing my hands for 30 minutes, but when you actually see the process of me doing it and like my body just like clenching up to like get to that feeling and me just being like so exhausted, I think that gives people a better understanding of exactly what OCD is, and then just of how any mental health in general can affect someone's life, even though you don't see it on the surface day to day necessarily.
Absolutely. I think what I find interesting about OCD specifically is we all have this like 80s sitcom definition of it. Like it weirdly is one of the few mental illnesses that's in the forefront. Like if somebody says they have OCD, I think they check if the locks are, locked, or their garage door is down, or they're overwashing their hands. Like that's the kind of cliche simplified version, using it in everyday life without actually understanding that any person that suffers from it, there's different ways that it gets expressed.
Yeah.
And then everybody's routine is unique. You know what I mean? Like you clearly have come up with your own unique routine based on what you believe clean is to you.
Yes, exactly.
And then even how debilitating it can be in the sense that you are losing sleep, you are losing time to eat, you're losing time with friends and family, you're losing just normal time to like sit and rest or do other things that you want to do, and that you're constantly on an everyday level being distracted by this. And it's not just I wash my hands too much.
Right, exactly.
Really, in I would say the last like 3 years, more people have been doing what you're doing, which is being open about these are the issues I have. I'm still a hardworking, successful person that does them, but I also struggle with it every day. And it's not just I like soap.
Yeah, right.
This is something that I related to when I was kind of researching about you. I don't have OCD to the level that you do. I actually kind of fought when my therapist was telling me that I struggled with it, because I have a friend that's pretty severe the way you are, and it's been very debilitating in his life. And I was like, well, I'm not like Mike, so she's being ridiculous. And as I've started to kind of notice my habits and some of my routines and getting locked into them and feeling that same thought of why am I still doing this and why can't I stop, I've noticed it more in my dad, who I definitely think struggles with it. But what I've noticed on a positive side of it is that on a work level, it's made me this extremely dedicated and focused person. So I'll get locked into a joke that I'm writing, which sounds like a silly thing to focus on, but I'll have this idea, I'll be really excited about it, and I'll work on it, and then I keep working on it, and I keep polishing it and polishing it and polishing it, and I get pretty obsessed about an idea, and it becomes my best bit, where people are like, this is so solid, and da-da-da, and like, oh my God, you wrote it in a month, that's crazy, like with all the practice, and I'll feel really good about myself. But then on the other side of it, if somebody hurts my feelings, or if I say something stupid, I'll get locked into that thought and I'll torture myself for weeks at a time. Mm-hmm. So I can see the positive and the negatives. Would you say that in some ways it's been a catalyst to you being an athlete that's worked her way up to so many championships?
Yes, definitely has. With little things like when I'm doing strength training and I'm doing a rep, if the rep didn't feel right with me, yes, it's with cleanliness, but it's also like this right feeling. So I'm always searching for this right feeling. So yeah, if I didn't do the rep in the right way, I have to do it again. I have to like make that rep perfect before I move on to the next one, or I move on to the next exercise. So that repetition and whatever I'm working on as an athlete to be better, it has helped me in that sense. And another thing I've actually struggled with is, because I spend all this time with my rituals and my OCD, I feel bad for not resting. So it makes me want to push harder at practice to show my coaches, or show myself really, I think, that even though you shouldn't be cleaning, that you probably should go to sports med and get worked on, or you should be resting, I don't want that to get in your head when you're in training and to make you feel like you're not being a responsible, good athlete. So that has motivated me to always go 100% in training or whatnot. And I feel like if I didn't have that motivation with my OCD, I wouldn't be the boxer or athlete I am today. And so another thing we did in therapy was imaginative exposure therapy. And this is where my therapist was like, I want you just to imagine your everyday life, but without OCD. And I was like, I can't. I don't know how to see my life without it. And she goes, well, that's part of your problem of letting go to OCD. Like, you don't want this in your life anymore. You asked for help. You went into inpatient, but you're still having trouble with your goal, which is being dirty. You're having trouble holding on and understanding that, because you don't know what your life would be without these constant thoughts. And I was like, wow, that's a really good point of view. So, and we're still doing this today, of going, how would my everyday life be if I didn't have these thoughts? And I'm still working on that. It's still hard. I'm getting better because obviously my rituals aren't as intense and long, but I still have this little thing like, this is my motivation to keep me at world-class, elite, top-level athlete. So, and I'm probably going to be struggling with that for a while, as long as I'm in the athletic industry. So, but yeah, this is something that's hard, that most people are like, oh wait, I didn't even try to look at my life without it.
I like that you talk so much about how changing your perspective is very healing for you. I think a lot of people stay where they are, whether they're unhappy, whether they're in pain, physically or emotionally, because it's what they know.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're still a successful person. It seems like a very kind person, a healthy person, even with these rituals. So what would your life look like without these rituals? And I think a lot of people worry, well, even though it's kind of torturous, I still have gained so much positivity in my life, I don't know how to look without it. When really, I think a lot of people fight getting treatment, whether it's going to therapy, whether it's taking drugs that might help them, because they think, I've somewhat mastered this level of pain. Mm-hmm. What if the next level's worse? What if I can't master the next level? And I think that's why I find what you've done really brave and really strong, because you've basically said, while I know I can continue to function this way, I know that I would be healthier, happier, and better off if I got the right treatment, and challenged myself to find new ways of being successful while not torturing myself.
I know, exactly. That's why, boxing it's most important in my life right now, obviously. And so when I did come to that moment where, if I continue in this spiral, I'm not going to be able to do both. It's going to be one or the other. And I just, I was like, well, if I focus on my mental health right now and get a peace of mind, because I wake up, I wouldn't have a peace of mind where my mind could just relax, just for 1 minute. I just wanted that. I wanted that so bad. And to have that 1 minute of peace in my mind could be that 1% of me getting the gold medal at the Olympics and not. And so me truly realizing that, and me coming kind of down to a breaking point to where I was like, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to wake up and be like this anymore. I'm not enjoying life anymore. And that was also, I was like, I've never said that to myself. So I better change this. So yeah, that was just that one thing that really was like, okay, let me focus on my mental health, because it'll make everything better, and it'll make all what I've been working for the past 8 years actually be accomplished.
Can you talk a little bit about the shame and moments that you felt that you had to hide your OCD? Were you open about it from the beginning? Did you tell close friends? What was your process of understanding it, but then also starting to express it to others and be vulnerable about what your struggles were?
Well, when I was first diagnosed, again, I was like, I didn't know what OCD was. I just thought I wanted to be extra clean or more clean than normal people. I didn't think it was a problem. And so I was really frustrated that I had this thing called OCD when I didn't have a disease. I was perfectly fine. I didn't feel like I had to hide it at first. But then as it got worse, I guess I noticed my habits a little different than my friends, so I would hide it. Which made me feel embarrassed and ashamed, because I was hiding something from my friends because I didn't want them to look at me differently or, judge me in some kind of way. And that was mostly all throughout high school. My best friend knew about it. She didn't really care. Again, she was like, you can stop. I was like, it's not that easy. But then when I got older and I was having, roommates, and then with my boxing, having to go compete internationally and staying with, a teammate that I didn't really know, because that's when I first was on the USA boxing team. It was harder to hide it. And so, which made it more energy to try to hide it and do the same rituals that I needed to do to feel comfortable. My best friend, who I talked about, Michaela, who's professional now, we became really good friends, and then we started rooming in competition and then at the training center all the time. And so she, out of anybody, she's a person who's seen it develop, get worse over the past, I guess, 5-6 years. Because at first, she's like, what are you doing? Why are you taking so long in the bathroom? Blah, blah, blah. And I would just be like, I'm coming, sorry, I'm taking a long time. And then I finally was being a little more open with her and showing her my rituals. So, and then she was seeing like, oh, Ginny, dang, you're getting worse. You're doing this longer, you're using more supplies. So she's, she's that support that's actually kind of giving me a view of like, oh, wow, look at what I'm doing.
She's like your barometer.
Yeah, like a barometer for me. Exactly.
Yeah.
When she left, whoever I stayed with, roomed with, I would just, I would just have to tell them, because I was too tired of hiding it. And I just almost didn't want to hide this from anybody, because I felt like I was hiding a part of me. Even though I don't like to look at OCD as who I am, I still felt like I wasn't being honest with everybody. So when I started telling all my teammates, because they would see little things like me not wanting to touch the ground when we would do push-ups, or me be in the bathroom right after strength training for 30 minutes. They're like, what are you doing in there? So then I became more open, and then their interest and trying to understand it was more prevalent, obviously. And so they would start asking me more questions over and over again, which made me have to kind of sit back and think, how can I explain to them why I'm doing this? Because I don't even know why I do this half the time. So me trying to be open and give people a better understanding of my struggles has actually helped me overcome this OCD and get a better manageable state on it. So it's kind of gone both ways. I'm helping people show that you shouldn't be ashamed and go ask for help, and then just, stopping that stigma about mental health and OCD in general, to it coming back to helping me actually overcome it.
You show somebody something like routines, which is not a lot of people have them. It seems pretty extreme what you do. It kind of makes it easier to be vulnerable in other ways. Like if anything, it's made you identify your true friends, because they've seen this part of you and they still love you and they still care about you and they support you, so that if you do have a fight with them, or you are upset about something, or you're disappointed in something, you don't have to hide even just emotions, because they've seen this other part of you. It actually seems like you've accidentally built really strong friendships.
Yeah. Well, and that's the, again, going back, that's the funny thing about OCD. yes, it's made my life miserable a lot, and debilitating in so many aspects. But then again, it's made me who I am today with, again, being honest with myself. Don't be ashamed of who I am and why I do things. Be honest with people, and then like I know who my true friends are and who aren't, because of, you know, what they see in me is they see, you know, that I'm not, this OCD thing I have is not who I am. I'm just struggling with this.
Being open with your friends and being vulnerable with your friends about your OCD, how do you believe that has brought you closer and made you a better friend?
Well, when I decided to really truly come out with my OCD and tell people my struggle and all that, and forget about the shame and everything, it, you know, I actually felt more comfortable with myself because I wasn't worried about hiding this OCD thing. But when I became more open about it, people actually became more interested in it too. Like they were trying to understand my mind and why I would do what I would do. And so when they would ask me certain questions, I actually had to think about it for a minute. Be like, why do I do this? So it kind of made me sit back and kind of run through my thoughts and then be able to have a better understanding of why I do what I do. So me being more open with people and trying to help people, you know, not be ashamed and ask for help about their issue has helped me have a better understanding of why I do what I do, and then how I can go about changing it and having a better manageable state.
It's so funny how we don't even realize by trying to feel normal and hiding ourselves that we also push ourselves away from people, and that it actually, like you said, you've learned more about your OCD and you've actually learned more about managing it just because you've been open with other people and you've taught them the struggles that you're going through. I think people don't really think about that when they're trying to hide something they're ashamed of.
And you know, the funny thing is, I feel like people can sense when you're hiding something or you're not being your true self. Because I always felt when I was hiding it, people were like, something's going on with her. Like, that's when I actually felt I was more weird or being more judged. Now that I'm being more open about it, I don't feel judged. I don't feel weird. I feel like I feel more happy. Like I feel like people understand me better and don't judge me because they understand me better. But when you try to hide something and they don't understand, that's where I feel like judgment appears, because they're like, they know something's wrong, but they don't know what, and they want to understand it, so they look at that as weird.
Yeah, because I could also see from the outside, you're looking at somebody that's doesn't want to be present with you, somebody that's pulling away, somebody that is doing stuff that makes you feel like either it's going to be harming to them or it's self-harming to themselves, and it puts a friend or a coworker or, you know, a peer in this weird place where they're like, I don't know if I'm supposed to give this person space or if I'm supposed to reach out to them. And then when you kind of open yourself up and say, hey, this is something I'm struggling with, and then they do their job of trying to learn about what you're going through, all of a sudden it brings you closer. It might have them open up about any issues they're going through, even if it's just, you know, a friendship issue or they're having trouble talking to their dad. All of a sudden everybody's able to be emotionally present, and like we've kind of talked about, you're able to be a better friend, which I think is amazing. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming. What's next for you? What are you working towards?
So my next process is the international qualifiers, which gets me to Tokyo. So I won the Olympic trials last week, which got me on the team, but now I have to qualify America in my weight class, which is 51 kilos, 112 pounds, at the continental qualifiers.
Awesome. Well, I wish you nothing but luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, my eyes are tired of seeing it all. The battle line.